Morning, everyone. This is Jon Konings. I thank you for joining us this morning. I don't have all that much new information to pass on to you, but I will recap where we currently stand. So this is the report on the re-engineering project that the EPA has taken up for redeveloping the ECMPS tool. The new tool is temporarily being called ECMPS 2.0. Although Chris Worley, who is leading this effort, has said that he's not sure that's going to be the final name of the tool or not, but that's the name they're using at the moment. Here's a brief overview of what's actually happening. This is a replacement tool that is a web-based application. This topic was updated by Chris Worley at the ESC Spectrum User Group meeting last month in Austin. That presentation was videotaped and is available on the customer community area of our website. In case you want to go back and actually listen to what Chris had to say, I'm basically going to be repeating most of what he shared with us from that meeting today, and give you any additional information or insight that I can provide. So with that being said, Taylor, can we have the next slide, please? Again, beta testing began back in December of 2021, which is a year ago already. And there's a beta testing site that is set aside for this testing. It's a good chance for you to move around the new tool and become familiar with it. The new tool, I do have to say, is very similar to the existing tool in its layout. So the screens look very much the same. The layout of the screens look quite the same. So it really shouldn't be that big of a transition for you to change from the original ECMPS tool to the new tool as well. I do want to point out that the use of the new tool will become mandatory for all data related to the first quarter of 2024, which is about 13 months away. So if you do a linearity, for example, in mid-January of 2024, since that's data related to emissions data for 2024, you'll be required to use the new tool to evaluate that those linearity records. And if you wanted to submit those linearity records at that time to the EPA host computer system, you'll need to use the new tool for that. In addition, everybody will be using the new tool in April of 2024 for generating and evaluating any emissions data for 2024. So again, the new tool will become mandatory in January of 2024. At the same time, any new MATS reporting that your facility or that your emission units are required to begin reporting will go into effect in January of 2024 as well. So quite a bit happens in January of 2024. That's why I'm encouraging everyone to use the beta site as a way of testing and getting used to the new tools and how they work between now and that January of 2024 deadline. Let's talk a little bit about the new MATS records. If you are a MATS reporting facility, there are a number of new records, reports that will be required starting January 24, especially if you're using mercury SEMS or HCl or HF SEMS or mercury traps. Currently, that data is either not being supplied to EPA or is being submitted using a PDF report, and you use the current ECMPS tool to upload those PDF files to the EPA. These new records will be incorporated into both the quality assurance and the hourly emission files. One big example would be if you have a 30-day rolling average that you're using to demonstrate compliance, that 30-day rolling average will actually be in the reports themselves. And so this, again, is a great opportunity to use the beta testing site to, when that functionality is available, to double check the calculation of your 30-day rolling average in your PRISM or stack vision systems and make sure the data is accurately being flagged for inclusion in the 30-day average, and that the 30-day averages are actually correct according to your expectations. Now, just because, let me just share with you, just because ESC Spectrum configures your system for you, you really need to verify for yourself that the 30-day average and the other derived values are being calculated correctly. Remember, it's your legal responsibility to provide data sets that are true, accurate, and complete. And when I was a utility person years ago, that was my responsibility, that my company imposed upon me, that it was one of my responsibilities to verify that the hourly data that is being calculated excuse me, was done correctly, in addition to any quarterly mass totals, I should say, or the quarterly NOx emission rate averages. So again, you should plan on performing these checks to make sure that the 30-day averages and any other derived values are being calculated correctly. A good example is of a new record that is required for all mass reporting are the compliance reports. Currently, these are separate PDF files, like I mentioned before, that were submitted semi-annually using ECMPS, but now they will be part of the quarterly emissions files. And again, I can't stress enough that the beta testing period for the next 13 months is a really good opportunity to test out how these new requirements are handled both by Prism and Stack Vision and by ECMPS 2.0. I really urge you to take this opportunity to do this testing to make sure everything is working correctly between now and then, and don't wait until the last minute to try to get this all taken care of. We've known about these changes coming for quite a while. We've got 13 months to go to do some testing. So again, please take advantage of this testing period and use the testing site that EPA has set up for us to verify that how the process is working and to your satisfaction. You also need to be aware that whether you're involved in MATS reporting or not, that the regular acid rain files that are submitted will also be switching from the XML formatted file to a JSON file. And so this is a good opportunity during the testing period to verify that the new JSON file generator that will be coming soon in both Prism and Stack Vision is working correctly. The way I plan on testing this functionality is to generate an emissions file and run it through ECMPS and see what the evaluation report looks like. Then I would generate an identical file using the JSON format and run it through the new ECMPS 2.0 tool and look at its evaluation report. And since the two systems should be applying the same types of checks to both files, the evaluation report and errors that you find in the ECMPS report should match the same errors that are generated by the ECMPS 2.0 report that was based upon the JSON file. So the two evaluations, since the two files will contain the exact same information but formatted differently, the two evaluation reports should produce or generate the same errors. So this is how you can know that the JSON file generator that is going to be provided in Prism or Stack Vision is working correctly through this process of verifying the evaluation reports from both tools. And I can tell you that it is anticipated that about the middle of 2023, around the May, June, July timeframe, that is when ESC Spectrum is anticipating that it will release the software for both of the applications to begin generating the JSON formatted files in both Prism and in Stack Vision. And at that same time, both applications will be able to accept new JSON formatted files from the new tool for updating monitoring plan records and such. So a lot will be happening next summer when the new functionality is being released for both software applications. And now, between now and next summer, is a good opportunity to become familiar with how the new tool is working and how it can be, how you can check out files, monitoring plan records, and things like that, and see how it's all working. So again, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's no need to wait till the end. I suggest you start working on familiarizing yourself with the new tool right now, so that when the new JSON generation functionality is released in Prism and in StackVision next June, you can begin moving forward into that step and begin generating those types of files as appropriate and begin evaluating them in the new ECMPS 2.0 tool. I do want to mention that the ESC Spectrum has received the new schemas recently. They were released in early November, I believe. And based upon those new schemas, ESC Spectrum has been working to develop the JSON file generators that are necessary and appropriate. One area that we are lacking at the moment is the reporting instructions. The reporting instructions for both monitoring plans, quality assurance certification files, and for the hourly emission files need to be updated to describe the process for setting up the JSON formatted files. And EPA, or Chris Worley did say last month at the users group meeting that he anticipates those marked up reporting instructions will be released in about spring of the year. Typically, he was talking about the March, the April timeframe. And so once those are released, everybody will be able to look at them, to review them, see how they might need to change their monitoring plan records, and how you might need to do something differently for QA records if you are reporting new quality assurance records related to match reporting or whatever else. So the two big events that are coming forward are the release of the monitoring plan, or the release of the reporting instructions, I should say, which should happen in the March or April timeframe, and then the release of the new Prism and StackVision software that will include the JSON file generators. Okay. In this slide, I basically described the process I've already spoken about, in which you can do a comparison between the type of XML file generated using that tool, that functionality that's already present in StackVision and in Prism, and run that file through the existing ECMPS tool to evaluate it, and then at the same time generate another JSON formatted file, whether it be a QA file or an emission file, and run that JSON file through ECMPS 2.0 and look at its evaluation report and compare those two evaluation reports. And if the JSON formatted generator is working correctly, you should get the same errors from both tools. That way you can prove that the JSON generator is working correctly and no adjustments need to be made. But again, the beta testing period is a really good time to make sure that this is working correctly. As you all know, there are some QA checks that occur infrequently, such as the annual RADAs or the fuel flow accuracy records or things like that. And so we have this testing period coming up where we can test these various functionalities and making sure they're all set up correctly, both within Prism and in StackVision. And let me just also make you aware that depending upon the configuration of your systems, it may require some assistance from ECS Spectrum engineering people to help you update the configuration of your systems to generate the correct items that need to be in those files. So this is not something that typically will require this engineering work, but it may require assistance from engineering. So I encourage you do this testing early in the beta process, that if that turns out to be the case, that you've got some time set aside to have engineering help you and get things straightened out. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that too many people are going to wait to the very end, say next December or January, February of 2024, to begin with testing these systems, and there'll be a shortage of engineers. They just will have a backlog of work and won't be able to get to you and to your needs in a timely way. So I'm suggesting again that you're probably already tired of me hearing me say this, but you really need to take advantage of this beta testing period to test out the new functionality in your systems when the new Json generators are installed within your software. I also want to point out that in ECMPS 2.0, the current profile of checks will be maintained, and that EPA is not anticipating adding any new changes for a while. So what they're doing is they are porting over the existing profile of checks from the old tool to the new tool. And they're, like I said, they're not adding any new checks at this time. They're just worried about moving the old ones over from the old tool to the new tool. One of the things that people did ask for is at this time, if EPA could update the error codes or error messages that go with the checks that are made to be more descriptive, to help people understand what they need to do to their data to eliminate any errors that are caught by ECMPS or ECMPS 2.0. And Chris Worley has said that they will try to update those error messages, be more descriptive and helpful for people. Although I'm sure that was a really challenging task, because there are thousands of checks that they would have to rewrite. So I'm hoping that they will have the time and resources available to update those, at least to some degree. And again, this goes back to beta testing. The more beta testing we can do, the more we can help them to clean these things up and make them more user-friendly for those of us who have to run files through the new tool and respond to the error messages that are generated, and help them rewrite some of these error messages so that they are better understood and people can understand better what they need to do with their data to clear up those errors. And again, the slide basically is highlighting things that I've already spoken about. Again, about maybe it may be necessary for your particular configuration to have ESC Spectrum Engineering get involved in your configuration and make tweaks to it to make it compatible with the requirements of the new tool and other things such as that. So again, the beta testing period is an excellent time to make these checks, evaluate the functionality between the old tool and the new tool, and make whatever adjustments to your configuration to make it successful and acceptable. Next slide, please. Here are a couple of links to information that will be helpful for you. The first one is a link to their frequently asked questions, and there's a whole listing of questions that EPA has there. The second one is a link to the re-engineering website that EPA has, and the third link there is to take you to the beta testing site for the new tool. I can tell you that this morning I tried connecting to the website there for the beta testing, and it did not work. And I don't know if that's because they were making updates and posting new changes, what necessarily, but my advice is go to the beta site and to use it as much as you can, become familiar with it, like I said before, so that you are comfortable using it as we go forward. One other thing I do want to point out to you is that Chris Worley did say that at this moment in time, the Clean Air Markets Division, their group that handles the ECMPS tool, they are unsure if they will have the time and/or resources to maintain the functionality for generating LNE files in the new ECMPS 2.0 tool. What they have said is that they may or may not be able to do this, but they are really strongly urging people to secure another way for generating LME files outside of the ECMPS 2.0 tool. I can tell you, or at least I've been told, that Prism and StackVision currently have a module within them that can be used for generating LME type files within these two software applications. But I also understand that ESC Spectrum is looking for a third solution, which will not require using StackVision or Prism at all, but it's a hosted solution where you ESC Spectrum and on one of our servers, we would run the software for you, and we would need to get from you at the end of each quarter a Excel format, comma value separated formatted file that lists the operating data that we need to generate the files, and that we would receive that data and file from you. We would turn it around, we would run it through our software and generate the XML file for you. We would, of course, run it through ECMPS 2.0 first to make sure it was clean. And when we do have a clean file, we would return that clean Json formatted file back to you for your evaluation and final submission to EPA. So stay tuned. There's more information coming in the next couple of months about this hosted solution, we've been temporarily calling it, for those facilities that have been relying upon the ECMPS tool to generate the XML files. So more information will be coming soon. Let's wrap things up today by saying there's a lot of work occurring behind the scenes. I personally think that there's going to be a lot of work that's going to be released in 2023. It'll be kind of a big logjam, as I said, with the updated monitoring plan or the updated reporting instructions coming out in the March-April timeframe, and then in the June timeframe, June-July timeframe, ESC Spectrum will release the updated software for Prism and StackVision to include the JSON file generators, and then throughout the 2023 year, EPA will release functional checks for the QA checks individually. So, for example, they may release linearity checks that you can now import JSON formatted linearity files into the tool, into the 2.0 tool for evaluation purposes. And then down the road, they might release some of the more complicated QA checks like RADAs or Knox correlation testing records and things like that. So they're not planning on releasing all the QA checks at one time. They plan on releasing them as they are ready to share them with us for beta testing. So you'll have to keep an eye on the re-engineering site to see when these checks are available. And if these checks impact you and your equipment, then you'll be able to, at that time, run JSON formatted files through the new tool to make sure that your system is set up correctly and it can interface successfully with the new ECMPS 2.0 tool. So at this point, does anybody have any questions that Taylor can read to me?
We have a request that will provide another webinar update in 4 months. That's something that we can work on, John and the marketing team.
Yes, it was anticipated that we'll probably have 2 or 3 more of these webinars throughout 2023. I know that Chris Worley will probably be giving another presentation and update on their progress at the EPRI CEM Users Group meeting in May of 2023. That meeting is in Louisville. I think it's May 16th and 17th, if I remember correctly. I could have those dates wrong, but it's mid-May. And I'm sure ESC Spectrum will have another update at the November Users Group meeting that we usually have. But in between those 2 dates, I'm anticipating that we'll have another update, probably shortly after the software updates are released for Prism and Stack Vision that will have the Json generators. We'll probably have a webinar maybe a month or two after that, just to give everybody a chance to ask questions about how the tool will be working. It will probably have some input and some participation from the development team, as they can explain how the software is going to work. But yes, you should look for at least one more webinar from me in the middle of 2023 as an opportunity to come up to speed on what's going on, along with both the EPRI meeting in May and at the fall November users group meeting. If there are no further questions, you can, as you can see on the slide, you can always reach out to myself. There's my email address and my phone number, or Susan Kennedy is one of the other regulatory people who is going to be involved in following the conversion to the new ECMPS 2.0 tool. And you can see Susan's email address and her phone number listed on the slide. There were actually we are actually up to a group of 4 people in the regulatory group now. And you'll be hearing more from Susan and from Jennifer and from Allie in the next couple of months as we grow and expand our group. Prior to Susan joining us back about 7-8 months ago, I was the only regulatory person focused on regulatory issues, let's put it that way. But Susan joined our group about 6 or 8 months ago. She, like me, came from a utility. We both worked for an electric utility. I was with my previous employer for almost 36 years, while Susan had been with her utility employer for about 25 years. So between the two of us, we've got a fairly extensive background of experience related to the utilities, and we're here to help you work your way through any issues or problems that you encounter, not necessarily with ECMPS, but with any situations or issues that you have. And so you can certainly contact Susan or I at the email addresses listed on the slide or at the phone numbers listed on the slide as well. And with that, if there's no further questions, be sure to always feel free to contact Susan or I at any time, not just necessarily during these webinars. Just thank you everybody for taking time to come participate today. We're impressed with the turnout of, it looks like more than 60 people have joined us this morning. That's really great. I'm sure as we go forward, there'll be more and more interest as the deadlines approach. And so, yes, we hope that we can have more of these webinars and help you get prepared for this transition that will occur in about 13 months. So take advantage of the webinars that have already occurred and that are found in the on the website that we have, the community section, where this webinar will be posted, and others that have already occurred are posted and are available for your review at any time. And I know that there are more than 400 various presentations, webinars, other such guides and tools that are available in the community section. So don't be afraid to avail yourself to that information. It's available anytime for you to use and to take advantage of. So let me encourage you to follow through and use all these resources. With that being said, I'm certainly have nothing further to say other than I'm getting hoarse, so it must be a good thing. That being said, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, John.